gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's August the 16th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodel, as we discuss the news of the day presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And I said joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodel. I guess that's not totally the truth because he was missing in action yesterday.
Oh, here we go.
Well, I made the excuse. You know what I told everybody? I told everybody you were on assignment. But
you want to know what my assignment was?
But that was total bullcrap, just so you guys know. But
I was on an assignment. My assignment was hanging out with my high school friend who was here, and our schedules didn't match up. And I offered to do my own YouTube segment that you could put in, like one of those ads you throw into the middle with people faking heart attacks. And you said, no, I got it. Don't bother.
We got it done.
So don't be crunching.
But I will say this, you know, it was kind of funny because, you know, a solo show is nowhere near as interesting as the two of us together. Admittedly, I mean, there's no question about it. So, you know, I did the solo show, and we only got 19 comments on the YouTube comments. Well, the day before when we did the show together, we have 58 comments. We had an enormously larger number of likes, more viewers. So, Matt, the bottom line is you are an invaluable part of this show, and you just need to keep your schedule cleaner so that we can, you know, get you on here.
Listen, I would love to take full credit, but of those 58, I think 57 were people who were not happy with something you said, which I'm not going to rehash.
No, please don't. Yeah,
I'm not rehashing it. But that's why we got 58 comments. I'm not going to take credit for those 58 comments. I got one comment maybe. You know, you got 57.
Yeah, we've had enough of that crap show. But I will say this. You know, everybody is looking for me to change my opinion, and I am not a flip-flopper. I'm not changing my opinion. When there was improvement to be discussed, we talked about it on the show. We talked about it on the message boards. But the improvement has not changed my big picture perspective on the future of the quarterback position. And but there are variables to that future, Matt. And one of them is Emory Williams. And we won't go into too much conversation about him today. We've already talked about him on other days. But Emory Williams clearly is, you know, listening to other schools. Other schools are coming at him. You know, we're not stupid. You know that involves NIL. I mean, I don't care what the rules are or the protocols or all that. Other schools are coming at him, I'm sure, with NIL. And like we've talked about, and it's not just him, all these recruitment situations in both directions are going to be fluid until signing day. There is going to be a whole nother cycle of this stuff in December because kids, based on their performance in this upcoming high school football season, their values are going to go up or they're going to go down. It's just the bottom line. There's just not this endless pile of money all over the place for people to give to these kids in NIL deals. And Miami does have a second collective now, though, called the Cane Collection. So that was a good development in the last week. And I don't know how much money they'll end up having. I don't think they'll have the depth of John Ruiz. And I don't see John Ruiz and LifeWallet, you know, not being the top dog in Miami NIL anytime soon. But I think it's good that there's more pots coming into play because all of these kids are looking for NIL deals. And ultimately, I can't imagine one entity can do it all. So that's a good thing. But so, Matt, you're back is the bottom line. The show is rocking and rolling and whole. And I thought we would start today talking about the AP poll because that came out yesterday, and the Hurricanes were placed in the Let me see here. Wait a minute. I lost my AP poll chart. I believe number 16. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here it is. The AP poll ranked them number 16, and I think that's fair. They were number 17 in the coaches poll. Basically, the polls flip-flop Miami and Pittsburgh, which I also think is fair. I think Miami should be ranked ahead of Pittsburgh right now. But the question I have for you, Matt, is, we're seeing a lot of the pluses and minuses now that we're a week into training camp. We've seen the issues that they're having at receiver with guys catching the ball, for example. There's been a lot of talk about linebacker deficiencies, but those appear, from what we're seeing, to be covered up, in a sense, by a drastic improvement in the play up front on the defensive line with all these guys that they're rotating in and out all the time. So the forecast for this team is evolving, I would say. And would you agree with that?
I mean, I don't know why you even have me on the show. Why didn't you just do your own show again? You talked about 4 different topics. I don't want to interrupt you because God forbid I interrupt you. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, okay? Flip-flopping.
I'm going to give you equal time. Go ahead. You get the next 5 minutes.
I'm sure you're going to interrupt me. You might cook your pancakes on one side and not flip-flop them like a normal person, okay? But you mentioned NIL deals. And I talked to a high school coach yesterday who said he's been a long-time coach in Broward. He hasn't seen anything like it. NIL deals, he says, have changed how his players are approaching recruiting. And I don't think that we as reporters or fans have a handle yet on what this really means for recruiting. Fans understand what it means. Was that an interruption? I don't know.
I don't know, but I don't speak for me. I have a handle. In most of these cases, it's the highest bidder is going to win.
Okay, that's the obvious point. But I think what fans and obviously apparently you don't understand is any player now who's a young player who doesn't have a major NIL deal will be a free agent. What I found from talking to different agents is that the players who are already established from the year before that sign NIL deals with their school, they're pretty much locked into that school. They're not going to leave because the NIL deal they are signing stipulates, for the most part, that if they leave, they have to pay back all the money. And so another school that tries to steal them from some booster who happens to have a business, they have to pay all the money, basically, that school's already paid the guy, and then on top of that, add the money. But if you have a guy, a Henry Parrish, just for an example, I have no idea if he's going to get an NIL deal anywhere, whatever. But let's just say Henry Parrish has a great season. Actually, Henry Parrish is a really bad example because he's already transferred. Second time transfer doesn't work. So let's take a player who hasn't played, who hasn't transferred. Let's just go with Thaddeus Franklin. Okay, not that he's going to have a good year or whatever. Whatever. I'm just picking a name. Let's say he rushes for 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns. He has no big NIL deal because, he hasn't really had a breakout. If he does have a breakout, he can go on the open market with his agent, which is legal to do. It's legal to do that and field NIL deals. Totally legal. Whoever has the best deal is going to get him. That's just how it goes, man. That's when you just say, what you just said, that's why there's more to this that we haven't seen. It's just the tip of the iceberg. And recruiting is that example on steroids because every school in the country can do backdoor deals with these guys are all hiring lawyers, okay? They can't be agents for a high school kid, but they can hire lawyers. Lawyers are also agents, okay? But they're called lawyers when you're in high school. And these lawyers can field backroom deals with whoever the heck they want. These guys aren't scrupulous in following the letter of the law. They're trying to help their client make money for themselves and their player. So these are things that I don't think fans are prepared for. And this high school coach I was talking to said this is something that is basically has changed recruiting forever and ever and is nothing like what it used to be. And fans have no idea what's going to come in November and December. It is going to be insane. It's going to be insane. If a kid has a great senior season, the money offers will go off the chart. And you don't want to root against Miami commitments during their senior season. Of course you don't. But if one of them explodes and becomes, a 5-star caliber athlete, I mean, unless somebody at Miami wants to pony up the money, man, those bids are going up. And I hate to say it, recruits don't just go to the school they want to go to. They go to the school that's going to benefit their family the most. And you can't really blame them for that. Okay, so that's one thing.
Well,
That's the
can I
NIL
just
season.
add something there? It still looks to me like Miami is resisting the bidding wars. Like they're taking some L's in recruiting. Jaden Bonsu this week was a perfect example. I mean, he looked like he was coming to Miami for months, and suddenly at the end, Ohio State wins out. And I gotta believe that NIL had something to do with that. I mean, nobody says as much, but that is my belief. And John Ruiz, Life Wallet, has said he is not engaging in bidding wars. Like he's being fair in the deals that he's doing with kids, both current players and future players, and he's being, from my viewpoint, he's been being very fair. But he's not going to sit there and get into bidding wars with other schools. If a kid's just using Life Wallet to drive up his price, I don't get the impression he wants to participate in that. So we'll see.
Well, listen, it goes both ways. Miami can lose commits and gain other people's commits. I'm not saying it's just Miami losing people. It goes both ways. But you also mentioned this collective. The collectives have been termed illegal. They've been termed illegal, okay, by different coaches, by the NCAA. You can't have a group of boosters come together and pool money and just hand it out to recruits. That is illegal. And yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, what's interesting though about this collective is, who's advising them on their deals and making sure that they're in compliance? John Ruiz and Life Wallet. The Life Wallet legal team is advising the new collective.
You know how it goes? You know how it's compliant, Gary? They give the money to John Ruiz, and then John Ruiz can dole it out. That's the only way to be compliant.
I don't know that's what's happening.
A collective of boosters cannot give money to recruits and sign them to do advertisements for the collective.
They're doing it all over the country. We gotta get more knowledgeable on that aspect of it.
I'm going to tell you.
They're doing it all over the country, so it can't be illegal.
What the collectives can do is give their money to an individual business whose owner happens to be a part of the collective, and then that person can pay money to have an advertisement. You can't have a collective raise money and then just give it away.
Yeah, so maybe you're right. Maybe they are.
If they're doing it, it's. Listen,
I'm going to suggest that we not talk too much about it because I don't think we really know how this is all working yet. I mean, this is all new. This second collective is a new thing. We'll talk about it more in the future when we have a chance to understand better how it's all working. But there is.
I know for a fact that a bunch of boosters getting together and handing out money is illegal. Like that's the letter of being illegal.
It would seem like that would be the case. But I don't want to talk about something I don't know about.
I read the story. I read the national stories about it when the NCAA addressed it, but that's okay. So anyway,
but everybody's doing it in some way, shape, or form. So let's figure out exactly how they're doing it, which I'll work on, and then we'll talk more about.
Well, guess what? Some of what people are doing is illegal. What I'm saying is I don't want Miami to do it the illegal way because we'll be the first example. We'll be the first example that they make out of any team in the country if the NCAA can do it. So I'm just saying, listen, John Ruiz is what he's doing is legal. It is legal as long as he keeps paying everybody. It's great. But there's some gray area you may not want to tread in. That's all. Now you mentioned the AP and the front seven in the same breath, which I don't understand what the front seven has to do with the AP poll.
Well, I think the play of the front seven in practice, the first week of practice, is changing the outlook for Miami's season. I think it's for the better. I think. Listen. Let's rewind. If we're sitting here and there's no coaching change, let's say Florida State doesn't convert that play on fourth down. Let's say Borregales doesn't miss the kick against, I believe it was Virginia, and Miami wins those games. Okay, Manny Diaz probably doesn't get fired, right? So if Manny Diaz is still the head coach and they're working the transfer portal, I don't believe they work the transfer portal to the degree of proficiency that Mario Cristobal and this staff did, which means this team getting ready to play a season right now is not as good as the team that is getting ready to play the season now. Okay, you agree with me on that?
I stopped listening when you said the words Manny Diaz. I didn't. I just had a ringing in my ear.
I'm going to assume you agree with me that the team that's going to show up in a couple weeks that play Bethune-Cookman is going to be markedly better than the team would have been had everything stayed status quo.
As my YouTube brethren like to say, green beans are green, Gary.
All right, cool. All right, so we're on the same wavelength there. Thank goodness.
What I'm trying to tell you is AP voters ACC voters, USA, coaches poll voters, they're not looking at Miami's front seven. They're not looking at Miami's receivers dropping passes. They're looking at what additions Miami's made. They're looking at Tyler Van Dyke returning. They're looking at the competition, not only in the ACC, well, partially in the ACC, because you got to figure out where to rank them compared to ACC teams, but also in the country. You look at schedules. Miami's got a very easy schedule, and you try to figure out where are they going to wind up. And guess what? I voted in some of these polls. Some of these people are morons who vote in these polls, okay? Like, for fans who are taking these polls very seriously, I strongly urge you not to. Some of them only know about ACC. A lot of them only know about SEC, and they just sort of look at what people are telling them. Some of them give their kids the poll. Hey, fill this out. You're a 13-year-old. You've been watching college football. Just fill it out for me, and I'll turn it in. These are the people we're dealing with. And I know a lot of them are very serious journalists, and they take their time. And certainly there are a lot of them that do that. And I'm sure some will be pissed off that I said stuff like this. But I happen to know some people who vote in this stuff, and I wouldn't put much stock into what they're predicting either. My personal AP poll, I think Miami's going to finish somewhere between 10 and 20. And guess what? That would be 15. So I would rank them 15. That's it. Final verdict.
Right, here's my thought. My thought is that what I'm seeing is a defense that I think is going to be better than just about everybody thought it was going to be. And the reason is because they have these waves of guys on the defensive line that they can keep bringing in, and somebody who's up there is always going to feel fresh. And that's going to make a difference in some of these games, especially the ACC kind of games that they've lost in past years.
Yeah, I disagree. Listen, you're drinking the Kevin Steele Kool-Aid. I know he wants to rotate 8 to 10 players on the defensive line. I know on the offensive line, they don't do that. The offensive linemen somehow can play 80 snaps a game, but God forbid your best 4 defensive linemen play 60 snaps a game. When push comes to shove, Kevin Steele is going to put his best defensive linemen on the field together when they need it most. And when they're tired, it's like a basketball game, at the right moment, you bring in some backups and you rest your starters. But there's going to be 4 guys on the defensive line that will be markedly better that should play most of the game. I'm sick of all these, this coach talk stuff that all these reporters, Gary Ferman, buy into, which is they're all starters. They're all the same. I don't even know why they announce starters before the game, because we have 10 starters on the defensive line. It's not fair. They say, why aren't I listed as a starter? But they are starters. Get rid of starting sheets. Get rid of depth charts. Everybody's a starter. Everyone gets an award. Everyone gets a prize. I mean, what is this? There's 4 defensive linemen who are your best players who should play most of the game, period. I don't understand this whole nonsense. I've been covering college football forever, it feels like. Like in the old days, they didn't say, oh, yeah, we're going to play 8 to 10 defensive linemen. They're all the same. That's crazy. That's my DNR.
Oh, my God.
DNR over.
Well, all right. I don't agree. And here's
obviously you don't, but
it looks, for example, it looks like the 2 starters at tackle are going to be Darrell Jackson and Leonard Taylor. That's the way it's looking right now. Harrison Hunt's a little banged up. He missed practice today, but those are from what I've heard. Those are the 2 top performers right now at defensive tackle. So if they start,
listen, okay.
They're still going to bring in Lichtenstein. They're still going to bring in Harrison Hunt.
Darrell Jackson is the starter against run-heavy teams. He is not going to be the starter, I'm telling you right now, against teams that just drop back and pass 40 times a game.
And that's possible. And that's the kind of flexibility that they're going to have, which I think is great. By the way, Messidor, I hear, is tearing it up out there. He's doing great. So that's another good pickup. Then, you've got the Jafari Harveys of the world, the Chance Williams of the world. So they got a lot of bodies, man. I don't know what you're thinking. I mean,
if you listen,
they got a lot of guys that they're going to be able to rotate.
Would you be comfortable with Chance Williams and Jafari Harvey as your starters this year? If you are, then I can't even talk to you, because Absolutely I'm not happy with that level. I know what they do. I know how they play. They're fine as backups playing 20% of the game. I don't want them playing 50% of the game. I don't want them playing 70% of the game. I'm sorry. I love those guys to death. But there's 2 better defensive ends that I've seen out there, maybe even 3. And,
you're lucky they're not quarterbacks, because if they were quarterbacks, people would be jumping all over you right now.
No, that's not true.
Yes, they would. But because they're defensive linemen, you're going to get a free pass.
No,
you are, because you're dumping on those guys.
You had a very poorly worded few sentences on Jakari. and people took you to task for it. Maybe people will say you're being mean to
I
returning defensive ends.
I'm watching a young kid spraying the ball all over the place, and it hasn't ended. I mean, sometimes he's on the money now. Like he's been better the last few days.
He's been fine.
And I know what's coming through the door in 5 months.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with you and I sitting here and saying this guy should be a second teamer and this guy should be a starter. People took you to task because you said he should move positions, and he's
here's why.
Who's been here for a spring and a week and a half, so that's why.
Here's why. He's going to be number 3 this year. If Rashada comes in, you'll have Jake. I think Rashada, if he's as good as people think he is, will be the number 2 quarterback next year.
Listen, you need to keep your pancake on both sides because you're going to get a lot more. There's going to be another 58.
I'm just projecting ahead. So now you're competing with Emory Williams to be the number 3 again next year.
We just talked about Emory Williams maybe not even sticking. I mean,
I understand, but if Emory Williams doesn't stick, I think they go in the portal and get a quarterback. My point is that this is not changing for multiple years, 2, 3, 4 years for sure. And I saw, and I don't want to go through all this again, but to my eye, I'm saying this kid is a dynamic athlete who is a game-changing athlete in high school. There might be a way to use him now to help this team. He's tall. He's got a Frank Latson-like body. They need red zone receivers. And I'm thinking to myself, what if he can do it? And you don't know if he can do it unless he tries to do it. If he tries to do it, he's offending everybody out there because he's a quarterback. Whoa, my screen just went haywire.
Let me dig you out of your rabbit hole because I'm going to say something that will catch fans' attention and perhaps take the pressure off of you. And I honestly believe this. I believe that when Jaden Rashada committed to Miami, he felt it was the most secure NIL deal he would get in the future. You can't promise to get an NIL deal, but I believe that the other school he was considering, Gators, had an NIL deal in place that I'm not sure he felt they would actually give him. I think at Miami, he's seen John Ruiz has been very consistent with sort of how he's done things. And while Miami, of course, can't promise him any numbers, I think he understood, if I go to Miami, I'll be taken care of. And it was an NIL decision. It was. He was not going to come to Miami 2 weeks before he committed. He wasn't. He was not even going to visit here. He canceled 3 different visits. Now, with that said, we're in August. Signing day is in December. If Jaden Rashada has a great senior season, this is what I'm talking about. Let's say Emory Williams, right now, he's wavering, right? Let's say he winds up going somewhere else, which many people think he will. And now Jaden Rashada in November blows up, December blows up. I don't know what's going to happen with other quarterbacks committed to other schools, but if some school has, let's say Nike money, for example. I have no school. I don't know any school that has Nike money, but let's just pretend that a school has Nike money. I know, Gary. And let's say they say, man, screw Mario. I'm going to give him $10 million. Bam. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, this is what can happen. Yeah. Will it happen? I don't know, but these are things that I know.
And obviously, if any of these things happen, the whole landscape changes. I get it.
Yeah, but these are things that fans need to get used to that are not coaches' fault. They have recruited these kids amazingly well. And it's just a shame when there's such a great recruiting staff finally in place at Miami to now all of a sudden have the NIL shoe drop. And it is going to drop on some of these kids. Some of these student athletes. And it's just a matter of time. Like, it's August. And there was a rush to commit by all of these different student athletes because they wanted to get it done before their senior seasons. Because guess what? Every high school coach in America doesn't want to deal with 50 coaches coming through their door when the dead period ends come the start of the season. And they beg their recruits, please just make a decision. Before your senior year, you can take visits, whatever. I don't care. I want it done. And a lot of these student athletes have made their decisions. I mean, it's a remarkable percent that have already committed before their senior seasons. You never saw stuff like this 4 or 5 years ago. You remember how many recruits used to go into signing day undecided? Remember that? Like, we didn't know what they were going to do? Mm-hmm. Those were the days.
Yeah. All right, so the AP poll came out. Let me get back to that.
Oh, yeah, the AP poll. We were talking about that already.
And so Miami's number 16. There's 17 in the coaches poll. The thing that I love about it in a big-time way is you got number 4 Clemson and you got number 6 Texas A&M. So Miami is going to get to find out how good they really are. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I found it interesting that NC State is ranked 13th ahead of Miami right now. So people think that NC State is the second best team in the ACC, and they got Pittsburgh right there next to Miami. So they're projecting a 4-team ACC race. Matt, you've done a lot of research and looked into some of these ACC teams. Would you agree with that? Is it a 4-team ACC race?
That's the perception, but I look. I don't worry about the Atlantic. My perception is I don't worry about the Atlantic. So who cares about NC State or even Wake Forest, or Clemson for that matter? Really, Miami's got to win the Coastal at the end of the day. This is the last year that's going to matter, and the teams that I see in the Coastal, it'll be a problem. I don't think I think Pittsburgh might be a team that people think is good and just is not. I just feel that way very strongly. I'm not quite sure why. I watched Pittsburgh play Miami last year. I didn't think they were particularly good on defense. They're sort of undersized. I know they have these amazing defensive linemen. They didn't look so special against an average offensive line. Their top quarterback's gone. They got obviously a new transfer coming in who's pretty good. But if I had to pick a surprise team in the Coastal, I've said it once before in the show, but just researching Virginia, that's a program where there are some pieces back on both sides of the ball that could make them a very interesting team to watch. And Miami's just got this weird history with Virginia where, for whatever reason, they just have a trouble. Like they just have trouble
up there. Yep.
And if they split a couple of games, if Miami drops a game to North Carolina, just there's going to be some crazy stuff. It's Mario's first year. He's still got a 60% Manny Diaz roster. There's going to be a close game that Miami might lose in the Coastal that they shouldn't. It just might happen. I'm sorry, everybody out there. You know me, always so happy and joyful about everything. And if that happens, and if Virginia drops a game to someone else, they both could beat Pittsburgh, and then the Virginia-Miami game could be the outcome that matters for who has 2 losses and who has 1 loss in the Coastal. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, there's the Georgia Tech and Duke. You don't have to worry about them. Virginia Tech, I don't think is very good. So those are the teams I would point to and say, keep an eye on those guys.
All right, we got some other stories to talk about real quick, but first, let's hear from our friends at Life Wallet.
I'm JC Henton, and most people don't realize it, but I suffer from asthma, which is why I'm glad I have my Life Wallet to protect me out of the water and in the water. You don't have to hold your breath. Life Wallet's got you covered.
Life Wallet. Saving time, saving lives.
Get Life Wallet today.
Your vote for the best Life Wallet commercial so far. The recent Morgan Pankow golf video I thought was very good. I think that one's good. The ambulance one is okay. And then I still really like the security one from earlier, where the offensive line was protecting Tyler. What do you think?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking to me?
Yeah, I want to know what do you think?
I'm kidding.
What do you think's the best?
Listen, my favorite ad is I'm
it's
a
like
guy.
Super Bowl. It's like we're evaluating the Super Bowl commercials.
I have to give you some background first. When I was growing up, and by growing up I mean ages 0 to probably 22, I was in a family that really wasn't big on TV, no cable. I had to go to my friends' houses to watch cable TV, to watch movies. We didn't have an Atari. We didn't have a Nintendo. No friends wanted to come to my house. We had nothing. We had a black and white TV in the kitchen, and that was basically it, When I'd spend my summers on Fire Island, where my grandfather lived, he had a color TV, and we called it in the attic. It was like a 3-story house. So you'd go up these winding stairs to the attic, and you'd watch the color TV with him. So I'd go up there and I'd hang out with him, because that's the only way I ever get to watch TV. But of course, he'd watch the Archie Bunker, whatever that was, All in the Family. He'd watch the Carol Burnett show, nothing. Like, this is what I grew up watching because I had no other options, okay? I didn't have another TV to watch. But there was no remote controls in those days. And whenever a commercial came on the TV, we'd be pretty far away from the TV. The couch was pretty far back. He would get up, and he was an old guy, and he didn't walk so well. He would toddle over to the TV, turn the volume down, all the way down, while the commercial was on, go all the way back to the couch with me and sit down. And we'd just sit there staring at a screen with no sound. The show would come back on. He'd get up again, toddle back up to the TV, turn the sound back up, and go back. So I am not a person who's used to caring or watching about commercials. I know it's a sponsor. That's all great, well and good, show me the money, whatever, man. But to ask me my favorite commercial, I'm not the guy you want to be asking. I guess my favorite commercial, only because I was there, sitting on somehow they have like a 24 packs of ginger beer, right? It was, what kind of ginger beer was it?
Goslings?
What was it?
Gosling? Goslings?
I don't think so.
Goslings makes
it was
dark and stormy. Great drink, by the way.
It was 2 words.
You like rum.
For some reason, in the garage outside of John Ruiz's office building, there was just these stacks of ginger beer. And so I just sat in these stacks of ginger beer and watched these guys filming the commercial and doing like 30 different takes with I think Cleveland Reed was driving the car. He's no longer here, but still, that was my favorite commercial because I got to hang out on a ginger beer and watch them filming it. That's a 30-yard one.
This is the one. I'll show the beginning.
We here at LifeWallet take security very seriously. Our data security team is.
It's great the way the offensive lineman working security.
The highlight of that was at one point, apparently, my reflection of me sitting on the ginger beer was showing up in the window of the car, and they made me leave.
You know why I think the ginger beer was down there? I think in that office building, there's a rum company that has offices in there too. They probably were getting the ginger beer for the rum company. Who knows? All right. So anyway, let's talk about some of these other stories that are on the website this morning. We spoke to Mario Cristobal yesterday afternoon, got an update on injuries, his thoughts on the scrimmage. So if you missed that, make sure you take a look at that story. We also had.
By the way, not to interrupt you, Gary, because
interrupt me. Go ahead.
So this is interesting. The scrimmage. I wasn't on your show yesterday because apparently you couldn't make the time for me to have my own YouTube video thrown into your precious time on air. But from what I understand, there was a decent presence of coaches out there watching the scrimmage, and I was told by somebody that they kept stats. The sports information people, whoever it is, kept stats and gave those statistics to Mario Cristobal after the scrimmage in the event that he wanted to share them with the world,
right.
Which in the past has been the norm. This is how you know it's a whole new world. And there was things that leaked out of that scrimmage, by the way, that if Mario Cristobal knows or someone tells him, I mean, you and I both know Mario, what would happen, Gary?
He'd go insane. Yeah,
he would start tearing apart buildings. I mean, this guy, if he knew what was, I don't know if he knows what was out there or not. Anyway, we're not going to get into that. So he was given the stats. And then, the sports information department, from what I understand, and this is not coming from the sports information people, this is somebody who knows the sports information people that told me. So they were, of course, expecting in the post-scrimmage interview that he does that's released to the media, this little video, that he would at least share some tidbits because they had spent the entire scrimmage. It's not easy to compile statistics on every offensive player and defensive player. This is multiple staffers that have to be there between 8 and 10 p.m. And then they are in crunch time for a half an hour before this interview to make sure that coach has the accurate and best stats to give to the media. And so they did all this work, I guess not asking Mario first. Coach Mario, here's the Holy Grail, Coach Mario. Here it is. And they hand him the Holy Grail. And Mario crumples it up, throws it away, and does his interview for the media saying, it was a good scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I liked what I saw. We have some work to do, but overall it was pretty good. The work continues. Thank you for your time. Bye, everybody.
A pretty accurate summation of
that's
the
affairs.
I agree.
I made up the crumpling up the stats part, but other than that, that's what happened.
Yeah, it's like,
and I love it. And I love it, by the way, other than the fact that everything leaked out and everybody knows who did well and who didn't do well. And some stuff we didn't report because it's schematic. And
it pretty much was the same as what we reported 2 days earlier.
Which it shouldn't be that different. You want consistency, although the consistency in some aspects is bad consistency. But the consistency on defense is certainly there, which is all I want. I want a consistently good defense, and then I'm fine with it, man. I think we'll be fine. Consistently good defense. That's all I want. call me crazy. And by the way, I grew up an Eagles fan. You remember that Jerome Brown defense on the Eagles? I would watch those games, and it was the only time in my life. They had Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Seth Joyner. You could go down the list, man. That defense was sick. They had Allen at cornerback. I mean, they had everybody. I was a Eagles fan back. This was in college. When I was in college, I would watch every game on this little tiny TV because my parents wouldn't buy me a big one. And but I did have a TV at least. And I would actually, how when you're a fan, you prefer your team has the ball, right? Because, hey, maybe you can score. At least the other team can't score probably when you have the ball. I actually felt more comfortable when the other team had the ball because the other team would go backwards. And it was the only thing we could hope for that Eagles offense, which was an awful offense, was that maybe the defense would push them far enough back that they'd have to punt and we get the ball almost in field position and you'd win the game 3-0 or something like that, That's not going to be Miami's defense. But if Miami's defense can just be a little good and just be better than the last 2 years, then I think Miami could be maybe in that 10 range instead of that 15 to 20 range.
Well, I think the defense is going to be better. I think the biggest issue is, as we've talked about, plays down the football field, big plays, big chunks of yardage. Does the offense have to be too station to station?
Well, remember, if they have a good defense, they don't need that, and they're not going to do that. If they have a good defense, they're not going to put things at risk down the field that they don't need to. You can beat a Texas A&M team 24-21 with a good defense and not take too many unnecessary risks. I know fans hate it with this, you pack it in and you do dink and dunk, but it was dink and dunk in the scrimmage from everything that I heard from everybody. They couldn't get the ball down the field. And if they were forced to get the ball down the field, well, guess what? Every quarterback was intercepted trying to throw down the field. That's not something that's going to go unnoticed by Josh Gaddis. When you're playing Texas A&M, if you're not comfortable and you think you have a good enough defense, you're going into that game thinking, I'm going to just sort of test the little short routes and try to open up some things in the run game, get in a little bit of a flow, maybe play field position with your punter. That's okay. I know fans want, we got to throw bombs and we got to light it up and get them on their heels. That's not really necessarily how you're going to beat.
I'm with the fans. I think you got to have big plays sometimes. So we'll see. Maybe
sometimes.
Yeah, you got to be able to.
You can win. You can win games with a good defense. The way I just said. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
I don't know.
You don't have to do it that way.
That great. I don't know if they'll be that great. We'll see. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. We'll see. All right. Other stories on the website this morning. On3 put out their early 2025 prospect watch list. We took a look at that from a Miami perspective. We also have an update this morning with high priority in-state offensive lineman for 2024, Eddie Pierre-Louis. He breaks down where Miami fits into his picture right now and more. So be sure to check that out as well. We also have an interesting update with UCLA running back recruit Roderick Robinson II. He has a personal tie to the Canes. He's being recruited by Mario Cristobal and Kevin Smith. Be sure to check that one out. I think for the Miami needs a running back, and I think at this point it's going to be Roderick Robinson or Mark Fletcher. We'll see if they can flip Mark Fletcher, who's currently committed to Ohio State.
And I'll add one more recruiting tidbit just for fans who actually enjoy recruiting. So I did have a chance to talk to Jorion Dickey in California. It's my fishing buddy. We bonded over stone crab stories a while back. So I reached out to him. I don't like to pester these guys and get Jaleel Florence by them the way Gary Jaleel Florence me yesterday on this show. But I called him up. I say, hey, Jorion, how's the fishing going? Blah, 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 blah. And, I'm not one to just pepper him with questions. So I said, listen, would you mind if we ask some questions and do an update with you? He says, yeah. He said, you know what? I really don't think I'm going to do that. I said, oh, it's okay. I said, how about some off the record questions? He said, sure. So I can't reveal too much. However, it appears that Jorion Dickey may not understand the difference between on the record and off the record because he didn't want to answer any off the record questions either. After he said we could talk off the record. So
I think the situation there is he's waiting to see if he has a committable Miami offer. And I don't think that's been decided yet.
Fans are going to be very surprised to hear that. But I do think
what I think is happening.
He seemed to indicate something may be this, whether he's getting solid with Oregon in the next couple of weeks or not. I think in the next 2 weeks, just from talking to him for a little while, I think in the next 2 weeks we'll have some clarity on if he's, 100% and it's over, or if, hey, he's going to set up some fall visits, that sort of thing. So, I think next Friday-ish, somewhere in that area, we should have a little better clarity on him.
Yeah, I think Miami has to figure out what's going to end up happening with a guy like Hakeem Williams. You know, they're getting into a little bit of a numbers situation now. They don't have
There is no limit, by the way. Just so you know, there's no scholarship there's no initials limit in the cycle. Period. So just so you know, you can take as many as you want.
The 85.
They just may not want that many, but you can take as many as you want. The 85 is the only number that matters. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, the more they take, the more they're going to have to cut. And
Wait, what? I thought you don't like talking about numbers and cutting people. What?
Well,
just figure it out. It'll magically happen.
21 guys got cut this year. You know, I mean,
yeah. So another 20 cut next year.
And I think there'll be 15 to 20, and there's a difference between 15 and 20. So I think they're being careful with their scholarships right now. And you know, you're seeing like a Stanquan Clark not making the cut. He's off to Louisville. You know, they're not taking guys unless they think they're really elite players. And I love it. I think it's great. I think they've proven they could slay the portal where they need to. And that's how you upgrade the roster. You don't.
Isn't it amazing? Don't you find it amazing that you're talking about a composite 5-star wide receiver that Miami might decide not to take because you know they don't need him? Like, when have we ever talked like that? If you're taking him
if it's him or Hakeem, you're taking Hakeem. I don't care what the rankings are.
You got a bunch of other receivers on board. I mean, you can cut one of them if you had to. You know, I'm just saying.
Why do you don't want to cut Robbie or Ray?
I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying. You know, you're basically saying that you're getting the best receivers in the country already. You don't need another one.
It looks like they want to take 3 receivers. So,
yeah,
you know, they need to get to the nitty gritty with Hakeem, I think, and I think they're trying to do that. We'll see what happens. All right, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you so much for starting your day out with us. Again, you see all the info at the bottom of the screen. Please make sure you subscribe to our website. It's only $1 for the first year. Special deal that we were able to put together for the fan base. We want to bring everybody together at CaneSport.com starting this fall. So please.
And John Ruiz will pay for your second year. So make sure you do that $1 deal.
And then
I don't want him suing me. Maybe he'll pay for it if he knows you and he likes you.
Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That helps us with the algorithms and stuff with YouTube. We appreciate all the support that you guys give us to allow us to produce all this content for you. So for Matt Shodel, I'm Gary Ferman. I guess we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.